Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sara Newman, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this episode of Saturday with Sara. Today, I'm really excited to show you the gorgeous new Terracotta collection from our friends at 49 and Market. We have pattern papers, laser cuts, rub-on transfers, and acetate embellishments. So let's take a closer look. I'll move aside some of our embellishments and we can start with our 6 by 8 inch collection pack, which contains 18 double-sided pattern papers. You have 3 each of 6 designs, plus 2 extra patterns on the inside front and back covers. And you can see this is the inside of the front cover, and you've got this beautiful collage design. Just have a look. These papers are so gorgeous. Really versatile, so easy to use. Of course, you've got your patterns, you've got some faux texture, you've also got some gorgeous floral imagery, really nice kind of collage work in here, some faux text back in the background, really stunning designs. And then of course here is the inside back cover. So lots of different possibilities here. Here you can also see some possibilities in terms of pairing those designs together. Although of course everything is designed to go together beautifully. Then to go along, we have some laser cut elements. So we've got 114 in this set. And you can see all of the images here. And then I will gently flip through. Now, one thing I also want to point out is that on the back side of the front cover, you have all of these cutout elements too. So lots of nice embellishments to add in if you wish. And here are the laser cuts, floral images, butterflies, botanicals, leaves. Here you've got some borders and also some faux postage. Now I do want to show you, this used to be in here, but I wanted to show this to you as an example of how easily things just pop right out of the background. So this one has a nice frame, and then this inside section is full of all of these really fun little paper clip embellishments. And then we've got some more of the tickets and faux postage and tags. So lots of fun things going on in the laser cut embellishments. Now there are also some rub-ons too. I love using rub-ons to create layers and dimension, and 49 and Market makes gorgeous images that transfer beautifully. So here we have 3 sheets of 6 by 13 inch transfers. So you've got lots of big sheets in here. And you can see again these designs here too. Big, beautiful floral elements as well as some background images. You've got some smaller accent pieces, some words and backgrounds, some borders as well as words going on here too. So these are super easy to put to use, and of course I will show that to you. And I really like how the back of the package also includes this large image, which I think could be used as a background as well. So those are the transfers, and of course I'll demonstrate that and you can see how simple they are to add. Then finally we've got a pack of acetate embellishments. So a total of 74 pieces, 2 of each design. You can see them on the back here. And these are really lovely and they work beautifully to create layers. And you can see they're also nice and sturdy here too. Very simple to add to your project. So in this case, I just pulled out a couple of them and I used a regular glue stick to apply these to just a piece of white cardstock. So you can see the designs, and you can see also, and we'll talk later too, about how to use that glue stick so you don't have adhesive showing through the clear areas of those embellishments. So as you can see, we have got a lot of beautiful things to work with today, from our papers to our embellishments. Lots of fun ideas for us to explore the gorgeous terracotta collection. I'm really glad you're here today, and I'm excited to explore the creative possibilities with you. So come play with us. Let's start with this card, which combines the pattern papers, rub-ons, laser cut, and acetate embellishments. So first, I've started with this pattern paper, which I think is just stunning. And it's a perfect background for a large focal like this laser cut notebook page. So I trimmed down this sheet, slightly smaller than the card front, And I inked around the outside edges with grayish dye-based ink pad. This is one of my favorites. And then I glued that to the front of the card. And that's going to kind of lighten things up to give me this white border going around the outside edges there. And I wanted to create a collage on this laser cut notebook page. And this already has a really cool two-tone effect with the light and the dark shades just printed right on here. And so I've only needed to accent this with a little bit of a rub-on that looks like faux stitching. I think this is really cool. So I wanted to have another line going across the top here. Then on top of this, I've got a laser cut floral. And you can see by the stalk of the flowers that this is really pretty delicate. And with something this delicate, I really recommend using the Creative Expressions Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue for this. And I like using this in the fine tip glue applicator. So I've got my Cosmic Shimmer glue in this big bottle, but then I decant a bit of it and put it into the precision tip bottle. And this is what I have on my work surface all the time. And so when I'm gluing something like this down, what I will do is simply remove the pin from here, and this enables me to add just enough adhesive in just the right areas without it kind of going everywhere. And then what I can do is simply flip this over. This is the tricky part. Flip it over without getting the glue on my hands. And then simply position it down. Tap that down. And because this is really intricate and a little bit wispy, you can kind of move this around and make sure that you've got that angling the way you want it to. And then just let it dry and you're ready to go. So this way I avoid getting glue stick everywhere, or of course double-sided tape would be really tricky too. So I find that using that precision applicator with the acrylic glue just works perfectly for something as detailed and delicate as some of the laser cut embellishments. So then I've got the rest of my elements on here. I've got some larger laser cut ephemera. I've got the ticket and the postage and this Together Forever. I've got those kind of collage down at the bottom. And that will create some visual weight down at the bottom, and it kind of provides a planting for my flower element up here. And since the notebook page is tilted to one side, I've got some space for adding additional ephemera pointing to the other side. So one element is the butterfly, which is overlapping the notebook, and also this acetate foliage, which is glued straight down onto the patterned background paper. So let's talk about the acetate embellishments. I always get a lot of questions about this, especially in regards to adhesive, because when you have transparent elements, choosing an adhesive will not only make a big difference on how it's secured down onto your surface, but also whether it will show through any of these transparent portions. So with this piece here, you can see I've got some dark colored areas. I also have some areas here on the tips of these leaves that are just completely transparent. So I've got a couple of choices when I'm working with adhesive, and the two that I find work really well, once again, are Cosmic Acrylic Glue and also the glue stick. So let me show you both of these. I'm going to move aside my card here for just a second, and I'm going to bring back in this sampler sheet that I showed you at the beginning so that we can take a look at some of the different kinds of acetate embellishments. So some of them are pretty dark in color, so there's lots of area where you can sort of hide the glue. Some of them have lots of open area in there too. Now with all of these elements that are on this white cardstock, I used the glue stick. And so I just made sure that I added just little bits of glue stick on the back, mostly where the dark areas are, and then positioned it down onto my cardstock. Now, when I'm using that, I'm totally avoiding the open area, like on this butterfly here. And as I'm looking at this, I can see I was a little heavy-handed on this piece here. I don't know if you can see that there's some glue showing through on that. I think you can. Yeah, so I was a little bit heavy-handed on that. Now I also wanted to show you some comparisons here. So with this piece that I did, I used the glue stick for this element, and I think it's held on here really well and it's not showing through. I used the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue for this piece, and I also don't see anything. Now with this butterfly here, I used some foam tape. So I cut two very small pieces of foam tape and positioned them right here toward the butterfly body, and I can't really see through there and see any of the foam tape. So it is possible to use other types of adhesive. You just need to be strategic about where you are placing things. So I'm also going to bring in a piece of dark cardstock, because we've been looking at so much white cardstock. But as you can see with this piece, it would look really pretty if you placed it on there. So let's take a look here. And I'm going to take my glue stick, and I'm going to apply this. I'm going to make sure that I've got enough of that glue stick coming out of the base, and I'm just adding little touches, mostly where the dark colors are. So I'm not going all over, I'm not coating the whole thing, but I'm trying to make sure that I get just enough adhesive where it will be sure to hold that piece in place, but also not going where in those light areas. So then I'm just going to tack this down, and I've got my piece in place. I really like how that adds a bit of shine, a little bit of texture on there. So this is also onto a dark color of cardstock. Let's flip this over and I'll go the right direction. And I'm going to take the same flower. Now you could also just simply pop it in there, but then I thought, what if we had it kind of coming out from here? Well, for this one, I'm going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue. Again, flip this over, and I'm just going to use little bits, also working in some of those dark colored areas. So I'm just squeezing this out here. Again, not overdoing it. I think the trick with adhesive is to make sure you don't use too much of it. And I'm going to kind of spread this out. I'm using that applicator tip to move the glue around. And then, again, handling carefully. And then I'm just going to pop this down here. And again, just let that dry. So you've got a couple of options with this, either with the glue stick or the Cosmic Shimmer glue, or indeed, if you wanted to, on some of those pieces, add in some foam tape, you also have the option there. So a couple of different ways that you can adhere those beautiful acetate pieces. Okay, so back to the card. I've got this nice collage on the front, and then for the inside, I have some more of this beautiful pattern paper. Plus I also have a laser cut leaf, which is glued down right on here. And I've got a sentiment down at the bottom, also one of the laser cut pieces, and this acetate butterfly glued right on top of the laser cut element. Then blended into the background, I've got some large rub-ons, and I really like these for adding texture to a subtly patterned design. Now these are really easy to apply, so I'm going to grab a few supplies for a demo and we'll see another card example. Some of the rub-on designs in the collection today are backgrounds or snippets, like with this faux stitching here. Others are larger elements, like the floral I have on this card focal, and some are large background elements like you see right here. Also right down at the bottom. So whichever design you use, the application is the same, really easy to do. So let's have a look. We'll move aside this card, and I'm going to bring in this cutout element. Now this is, as you can see, from the inside front cover, and it works really beautifully as a large card focal element. So that's what I'm going to use here. And I've got one of the rub-ons just trimmed out from the main sheet. And when I trim this out using a pair of scissors, I'm keeping both layers together. So let me see if I can undo this here. You can see the rub-on is on the top layer, and then there's this white liner piece. So keep those two together when you're trimming it out of your main sheet with all of the rub-ons. The other thing you'll need to have on hand is a bone folder. So I've got one of these ready to go. So once I figure out where I want to position this, I can kind of place it down. Let's see, let's have it going like so. And I'm going to try and fold up a little corner of one piece of this, so I have something to hang on to. And then I'm just going to smooth this piece down with my finger. And it's going to stay in place, which is really nice. Then I'll take the bone folder and I'm going to use gentle, even pressure on here to burnish that image in place. Now this is a design that, as you can see, has lots of little dots around here, kind of a spattering effect. So I want to make sure that I'm getting all of those as well. So I'm just going to go over it a couple of times. You'll notice I'm coming in at the angle of this bone folder. Nice even pressure. And I like to do it a couple of times just to make sure that I'm hitting all of those areas there. And then I'm just going to gently and slowly start pulling this up. If there's anything that I see I haven't transferred, like I see right now, I can just place that back down and burnish things in place again. So it's pretty forgiving, which is really nice. And there we go. So now I've got my beautiful piece on my ephemera, and it really does add such a nice layer of texture and dimension on here, and works beautifully, of course, on a cutout like this one or directly onto your background paper. So let's have a look here. Now the pattern background paper is from the inside back cover of the paper pack, and I used background rub-ons to add pattern up at the top and then down at the bottom corners. And then of course I've got my rub-on focal here, which is this big beautiful floral image, plus this kind of abstract little border piece down there that I just added because I thought it would kind of fill out this fairly large cutout element. And then before I've attached this whole piece onto the front of my card, I added this little paper clip, and this is from the laser cut embellishments. It's this little one here. So you have some with words and you have some that are blank. You could add your own word on there if you wanted to. And that just clips right on to the edge. And then I've added this whole thing with some foam tape. Now running underneath, I have a lace die cut border, and this is from the Luscious Lace die set. This is one of my go-tos. I love this set. You have the border and then you have this large doily element. And of course I'm using the border on here. So let me show you this. When you've got your cutting die, again, when you're working with something that is intricate like this die cut element, a couple of tips to keep in mind. So first of all, I really recommend using the quick release die paper for this. And it comes in a box that looks like this, and you'll have 2 rolls in here. So all you need to do is just use some scissors to cut off a piece that is about the size of your die. So here's my metal die, and I've got a piece cut like so. And what I'll do is simply create a sandwich. So I've got my cardstock or my paper, position down the quick release paper, and then my die on top. And I secure the whole thing in place using some low tack tape, run it through my die cutting machine, and then I will have a beautiful piece that looks like this. So that quick release die paper is wonderful when you have an image or an element like this that has all of these little delicate pieces in there, a very intricate shape. Then the other tip I have when it comes to gluing this down, I really recommend sticky specks. And so sticky specks are dots of adhesive, and they come on sheets like this. I tend to trim my sheets down so they're a little bit easier to have in my work area. And all you do is simply pull back the liner. This is where the adhesive dots are on this sheet. Simply place that down, smooth it down like so, and then when you pull this off, you will have the adhesive transferred to the back. Now the rest of the sheet can still be used. As you can see, I use mine over and over and over again. And then you can position it right down onto your paper or cardstock, and it will stay in place. Again, you don't have any adhesive sort of squeezing out from underneath there, and it will stay in place perfectly. So those are my recommendations when you're working with that beautiful luscious lace. So that's what I've got glued down here in place. I've also added another rub-on. It's kind of a scalloped or an eyelet style of rub-on shape right here, going off on either side to enhance this. Then for my card inside, I have a couple of things going on. So first, I've got a background rub-on, as we saw on the card front, as well as some acetate embellishments with the leaves and also this border design. Now on top of this acetate border is faux stitching, and this is a rub-on. So yes, you can apply a rub-on onto the acetate. So let me show you this here. I've got another one of those borders simply glued down onto my cardstock, and then I'm going to grab this butterfly rub-on. And let's see, maybe I'll position him like right here. So overlapping the acetate and then also onto the cardstock. So there's a little bit of a bump there, if you will. The acetate isn't super thick, but it does have some dimension. So again, I'm going to place that down at my little folded corner and come back with my bone folder. Now there's no special trick that you need to do with this, only repeat the process as before. So firm pressure, even pressure. You do want to make sure that you're going along the edges of that acetate piece. And then again, just remember, if any of it doesn't transfer perfectly, you can place that rub-on back in place and come back and do it again. Okay, let's see how I did here. Gently pull this up, kind of walk it around here, and then there we go. So once again, you've got another nice option there, and it's a really wonderful way to, again, add some more texture and dimension onto your project. Okay, so back to my card. We'll take another look here. I've got that stitching going across that acetate border, and then I've got another little laser cut ticket with a sweet sentiment to finish it off. Our next card is using the butterflies and hearts die from hot off the press to create a layered focal, also incorporating patterned papers, acetate, and even the rub-ons. So let's start from the bottom of the card and we can kind of work our way up to this beautiful butterfly. Talk a little bit more about that. So first, my card front is covered with this really cool geometric pattern, and then I added a second layer of a subtly patterned design. Of course, I've got inking going on both of these edges using the grayish ink pad. And then I have this laser cut frame backed with a dark pattern paper. So I just simply backed that and then added this whole piece with some foam tape. I've also got the Be Filled with Joy rub-on down at the bottom corner, and the rest is just a platform for this big, beautiful butterfly die cut, which is in a couple of different layers. So let me show you the die set here from Hot Off the Press. I really love this one. This has a nice large butterfly, which measures a little more than 4 inches by 3 inches, so it fits nicely on a 5 by 6.5 inch card, whether you're positioning the card vertically or horizontally. And then there's some really nice smaller accent pieces, so the hearts and some swirls, and then also some smaller butterflies. So you've got some kind of going in from an angle, and then you also have this one, which is what I'm using in the center of my large butterfly. So I've die cut the bottom portion of the large butterfly, which you can see here, from a light tan patterned paper. and then cut the intricate part of the butterfly from just plain white cardstock. So let me show you what those two look like when I'm layering them up. And this is my sample piece. So the papers don't quite match, but this way I think you can see it really easily. So just take a look at how beautiful and intricate this is. Now in this case, what I'm doing is only adding some adhesive right in the center of the butterfly body and securing that down. That way I can have my wings lifting up a little bit and there's a little bit of dimension in there. So I've got that going on here. Then in the center, I have our other butterfly. So this little guy right here. And when I die cut this piece, I die cut it from a rubbed on surface. So for example, I've got some rub-ons here on this plain white cardstock. I've got that cool border and then a little snippet of our text background on there. And so all I need to do is take this butterfly, flip it over so the cutting side is facing in, and then secure it in place. And I like to use the Hunky Dory low tack tape for this and just figure out which direction I want things to be positioned in. Tack that down and run it through my die cutting machine. Now I use different rub-ons for this butterfly here. I use some of that kind of grid background on there, but it die cuts really nicely, perfectly. So yes, you can die cut from a rubbed on cardstock surface and it works very well. And then in the center of the small butterfly, I have a little button laser cut embellishment. And then I've got some swirl die cut elements just tucked underneath, and those are these swirls that you see on here. And I've die cut those from some of the pattern paper from the paper pack, and those are just tucked top and side. I also have some acetate leaf embellishments here, just kind of peering out from underneath there and creating a really nice sense of movement behind our butterfly. Then I've got another little acetate butterfly down there at the bottom. Then for my card inside, I have a cluster of overlapping rub-ons, plus the rub-on sentiment down here at the bottom. I also have another butterfly. So this is one of the butterflies in profile, which is die cut from dark pattern paper and backed with a lighter shade and attached with foam tape. And that balances out our little laser cut butterfly up here at the top corner. Before we look at our last card of today's webisode, I thought you might want to see how our rub-on butterfly turned out. So I ran this through my die cutting machine, and let's pull this off and have a look and see about our little butterfly here. So I'm just going to pull this off gently. Set this aside. Let's see, I'm going to grab my paper piercer here and pull out our butterfly image. Have a look. That is really pretty. And I love how it's capturing some of the words. It's also got some of that beautiful background design on there. Lots of lights and darks. I think this is just a really cool way to add some color and texture to our designs. And as you can see, it's not gummy. There's nothing, left over as far as the rub-on in my die. All I need to do is clean out my dies using my awl or paper piercer, and those little guys will just come right out. So I think this is a really fun technique to have in mind as well. So now finally moving on to our last card. We have a super simple card front with a fun surprise for the inside. So let's start with the front and then we can talk our way through this pop-up mechanism on the inside. So I'm using this really gorgeous patterned paper with the birds and the flowers. And I've just trimmed this down, of course, and edged with my grayish ink pad. And then I've added a small cutout collage at the top right. So because I've got a lot going on here with that beautiful pattern design, I don't need to do a whole lot more. So I'm using one of the cutouts, and this is from the back side of the laser cut elements. And I've just trimmed this out and positioned it going along this way to kind of fill in some of that empty space at the top of my card. And then I've got a collage going on here with some rub-ons, that faux stitching that you see going across there, that's a rub-on. And then I've got this really pretty acetate leaf cluster extending past this cutout. And I've got the laser cut butterfly or moth angling the opposite way. So again, I don't need a whole lot more going on the front of the card, but I've added in the heartfelt and thanks. These are 2 rub-ons. They're not designed to go together, but this is the nice thing about having a mixture of the words on the rub-on sheet, is that you can mix and match some of those to create your own sentiments and messages. So I have a small heartfelt and a big thanks on there. And then for the card inside, we have a really fun pop-up element. And this is thanks to the Bouquet pop-up card die. And this is a new to me die, and I can tell I'm going to be using it a lot. So let me show you this. This is the die set, and you've got the flower holder here. You've also got lots of floral elements that you can use in combination with the flower holder, or of course separately if you want to as well. And hot off the press, they're always going to give you a project idea here. So you've got the front and then of course the inside. Now what I like about the pockets that they package their dies in is that you can use this as a storage folder. It's a really nice and sturdy envelope, and so it will hold everything really nicely. And then that way you can have your instructions for the card project as well as your diagrams and your dies. Everything stays together. Nothing gets lost or shuffled under some other papers or instructions. So everything is kept together. Now for the mechanism on the inside, you can see here it's really pretty simple. You'll die cut your piece, and then you are going to do your folding. Now this is simple because it's all mountain folds, and they indicate on here the mountain fold, and it's like a little upside down V going on here. So you'll fold all of those score lines, add your double sticky tape, and then position it on the inside of your card. So let's have a look here. I've got all of my parts and pieces ready to go. So here's the die that you will use to make your piece. And then of course you've got your card. I'm using the 5 by 6.5 inch hot off the press card. I'm just gonna score that up and keep that to one side. Once I die cut this piece from whatever paper or cardstock, I'll have a little shape that looks like this, kind of like a fan. And remember, these are all mountain folds. So all of these score lines will be marked on your piece, so you don't have to do any other measuring. I like to start in the center and fold that right in the middle. And again, your bone folder can come in handy for that. And then I work around the sides. So I've got another one over here essentially going from the tip to that scallop. I'm going to just crease this down as well. And then the other side too. And I'll explain why I've got my tape on here already in just a second. And then there we go. So I have my little bouquet folder. So it goes from this to this really simply and easily. And then what you're going to do is flip it over and add some double-sided tape on the back here. Now I really like this extra sticky double-sided tape, the red line tape. This is going to work beautifully to hold your piece in place, especially since that card is going to get opened and closed multiple times. So you want that secure and in place. Then take your blank card and you're going to position this along the center fold of your card. But you do want to make sure that you've got each half of this on either side of the fold of the card. And then go ahead and secure that down. Now you'll notice I've got my bouquet pretty close to the bottom of my card rather than up here or right in the center. And that's because depending on what you have kind of coming out of your bouquet, you might want to make sure that you've got plenty of space in here for when your card will close. Now I've got one piece that's all put together so that you can see it a little bit more easily here. It will look like so. angle it up like that. And again, you can see that I've got that quite far down at the bottom. And then you can decorate this as you wish. So let's have another look here at my card. And you can see on the inside, first of all, I've started with some other patterned paper here on the inside of my card. And what I've done is taken this sheet and simply cut it right in half using my paper trimmer. And then I glued each half right inside the card. And you'll notice that I'm leaving this fold uncovered because I just don't want to have another layer of something folding in over this. It's just a little bit cleaner and easier to work with if you leave that little space in between there. And then I've added my bouquet holder, again, just cut from plain white cardstock. And this really works nicely to contrast with the darker tones of the pattern paper and also coordinates with the white of my card base. And then I've nested the bouquet inside here and added some die cut elements from the die set. So you can see some of the leaves in here, that's from the die set. I've also got lots of the laser cut elements glued straight down on here, and I have some acetate here as well. I've also incorporated some of the ephemera with the flowers and the postage note and the butterfly. And then on either side over here, I've got this really pretty acetate bird, and then I have another sentiment down here. This is one of the laser cut labels, and I've added a rub-on sentiment on top of that, and then just pop this up with some foam tape. Again, lots of fun dimension in here, and a really nice way to add something special to your handmade cards. So this is our final project of the day today. A big thank you to our friends at 49 and Market for this gorgeous collection. And a special thanks to you for joining me today. We're so glad that you're here, and we're happy you're a part of our Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.